Our guest today is an inspiration to people in the areas of mental health, overcoming struggles, and starting internet businesses. One of his most resilient success stories was coined going from wheelchair to dream chair. This stemmed from an incident where he was let go from work and amidst his struggles to cope was involved in an accident that left him paralyzed. Even though he was the most down on his luck and in financial debt more than he had ever been, and without work, not only did he overcome the 10% chance of walking again, he also started and scaled a successful business. We talked a lot about loss, mindset, collaboration, and how to be a successful entrepreneur. No doubt, his life experience, while at many times challenging, has become an inspiration to many. Please welcome to episode 19, Jacky Shan, or otherwise known as Jacky Sharma. I always like to ask people, the first question is, if you were coming to guest speak for me in one of my schools or to a business or something, who are you and how would you introduce yourself? Kind of what do you do?
Okay, so currently I'm an online business coach. So I'm on a mission to help hardworking individuals and parents around the globe to have a plan B. The reason I want to help them is because I've been into that place where I lost all my financial stability in 2015, and then I was on the ride where I was in the dark hole, rabbit hole for 3 years, sitting on the wheelchair. But when I finally got out of the wheelchair, I decided that I will try to reach out to as many as people and help them to have a plan B in place for financially. I help them to shift from 9 to 5 grind to online platform where they can generate money as a side hustle or a full time, so they can have a plan B in place, because now we are into a new normal and we don't know when the next pandemic will going to hit us. We don't know what is the uncertainty is waiting for us in future. People need to understand the future is all about artificial intelligence and automation. So if they can spend at least 2-3 hours a day making a couple of $100 or $1,000 on top of what they are making into their 9 to 5 job, and then one day they can quit the 9 to 5 and just stay online and make money, enough money to survive and to spend quality time with the family. So that's my mission, because I went from zero to a 6-figure income in 2 years time, helping people. So that's my mission, and this is who I am, an online business coach, hooking up people with the online system.
I've seen that in a lot of your content that you've created, this idea of helping people pursue their passions instead of maybe necessarily being driven by having a boss and this kind of thing. So you mentioned the idea of going to zero and then having to make that comeback. Would you mind sharing a little bit about where you were before heading to zero and then kind of how you ended up at zero?
Of course. So it all started in 2015. I was always been into 9 to 5 job. Almost for 10 years, I was working as a sales and marketing manager for a power company in Australia. And as in 2013, I also started a small direct marketing channel, because I was being into full-time job and into the energy field. The power companies, the people used to know me. And so I started taking outsourced contracts from them. And then with one of my friends, I started a small direct marketing channel. So I was working 9 to 5, plus I was running that direct marketing channel. Life was good. But in 2015, I bought a first house for myself. And in 2015, we had a baby girl came to our world. So it was my first child. But I didn't knew the life has something else for me. I didn't knew that there is something else coming towards me. In 2015, October, on the 11th of October, I went to work and my boss, my manager told me that, Jacky, we are sorry, we need to ask you to leave. We are getting rid of few management, because we are thinking of, selling the company and all. So I was like, okay, fine. I was still okay because I had a side business, so a little bit of money was coming from there. So I called my friend after coming back home on the 11th of October, 2015. I was like, hey, if you have any space in your office, I'm happy to do part-time, because I have lost my job. So he asked me to come down next morning on the 12th. So I was going to see him on the 12th morning, and I made into an accident. And that accident put me on a wheelchair. So after that accident, I lost my movements and the sensation below my tummy. So I didn't had any sensation. I was paralyzed. I was not able to move anything. And when they took me to the hospital, the doctor said that they have to perform a surgery, spinal surgery. And before the surgery, you have to do some paperwork. But they gave me the paperwork to sign. My wife was there, and the doctor told me that, Jacky, before you sign this, we just want to let you know that there is only 5 or 10% chance that you might going to walk back again, because we have seen your MRI scans, CT scans, and everything. The nerve system on your spine has severely damaged. So we do not give you wrong false hopes, that after surgery you will going to walk. There is only 5% chance you might going to walk again. When the earthquake comes and you see the big towers falling down, boom, 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 it was just like that, everything was falling down. I lost my job and now I am on a wheelchair in next 48 hours, And then I didn't know I'm also waiting for some other setbacks, and I was in the hospital after the surgery for 8 months. And during when I was in the hospital, so it happened in October, November, December. In January, I was obviously not focusing on the business which I was running on the side. I was relying on my partner, my friend. And then in January, I found out that he also took all my clients from the business, and he started his own thing. And now he's not picking up my phone. Now he's not picking up my wife's phone, and now I have zero income in my family because my wife was out of work because she was expecting in 2015, when we were going to have the baby. She left the job. So she didn't have any income. Only it was me who was the provider. And then it put me into that position where I started going into depression and anxiety and started blaming myself. As a man, we are the provider. That's what we think, and as a masculine energy within men, they do not show the emotions to the other people. And that's exactly what I started doing. I started keeping the emotions within me. There was no hopes. Literally, I was not able to see any hopes. As I said, that we bought a new house in 2015. So I was worried that who's going to pay for the mortgage, and the bank will take my house if I'm not going to pay my loans on time. But then when I came back from hospital after 8 months, my wife told me, I asked my wife, because she was not telling me, everything what was going around. So I asked, who's paying for the mortgage? Where are you paying from? Because you are not telling me. Then she told me that the mom is paying for the mortgage from India, and she's borrowing money from other people and she's paying for it. And that moment I was like, no, man, no, I don't want this life. I literally don't want this, because I never, thought of that. And, whenever I talk about this, I get those flashbacks, when I had those moments and I was feeling guilty. I never did anything wrong, Justin, to anyone. I never stole anyone's money. I never harmed anyone, I was living the life on my own terms and condition, and I was happy, I was trying to help everyone around me. But I didn't knew that life is going to be like that, the life will put me into the dark hole. And that's exactly where I started going. And when I came back home, it was only me and my daughter, and I used to stop talking to them. I just used to sit in my bedroom on the wheelchair and used to cry and punch walls. And then I tried to harm myself 3 times in 2016. But then in 2016, November, I had a moment with my daughter, and it was November 2016, and I was sitting on my wheelchair watching TV, and my daughter was playing on the floor, and she looked at me and she gave me a smile. I don't know what was that, but there was a power, in that smile. There was something in that smile which shattered me, which shivered my spine. I was like, Jacky, you need to get out of this wheelchair. You do not want to regret all your life, that you didn't took that 5% chance which doctor gave you before the surgery. And that moment I decided that I'm going to change that 5% into 500%, and I'm going to get out of this wheelchair. At least I can try, at least I can give my effort. And from that moment, I started reading books on mindset. I started following successful people, that why they are so successful, why the normal people, the normal human beings are not as successful as they are, what different they are doing, The followed Tony Robbins and Jay Shetty, who taught me about Jay Shetty taught me about meditation, affirmations, which I still do. It's been 5 years. And then I started following Tony Robbins, and from Tony Robbins I learned about priming, morning priming, which he talks about, and connecting with the internal world, changing the expectations into appreciations. When I started doing that meditation and affirmation, I started tapping into my subconscious mind. I started tapping into the reticular activating system of our brain, and then I finally started seeing result. My anxiety, my depression, I was on the medication for the anxiety and depression. So my anxiety and depression started going away. I started talking to my wife. I started talking to my mom. I started appreciating what I have at that moment. Even though I don't have money to survive, even though my mom was paying for the mortgage, even though I was relying on government payments, but still at least I have the beautiful family, those who stood for me, those who were there for me. And then in 2019, miracle happened. I took my first step in January 2019 out of my wheelchair. And that's how I went from zero to an online business coach. And when I got out of the wheelchair, the first thing me and my wife talk about is that how we can bring money into the house so we can take the burden out of my mom's shoulder. And then I started looking for opportunities. Then I got an opportunity to meet one of the community online, which I'm a part of now, where we help people to start an online business from home. At that time, the community was couple of 100 people. And now we have grown to like 75,000 people around the world in last 2 years.
It's amazing. There's so many incredible things to kind of unpack from that story. I really like how you went through the whole thing essentially in terms of that sort of narrative, the timeline, the hero's journey, really, to be honest. And a lot of things come to mind. One of the things that I would love to ask, if I may, is when you said accident, was it a car accident that you were in?
So I was not in the car. I was crossing the street, and it was totally my fault. It was my fault because I was going through those thoughts, because I got laid off from work in October, and we were heading into Christmas time. And when you are heading into the Christmas time, there is no job opportunities because there is no openings. So I was worried that I need to get the job before we get into Christmas. So at least I have a job, while I'm on holiday. So I was going through the emotions and the thoughts, and I was crossing the street. I didn't pay attention, and the car came and boom. And
Yeah, that's certainly a challenging life moment. I lost my brother September 12th, 2020 from a car accident, 32 years old, and left behind a few children. And so it's very front of mind when we think of this fragility of life that we all face. I think any story of resilience is just pretty special to see. I'm sure it took a long time to get into more of a gratitude mindset, obviously, because of the mental health struggles that are going to come first. You mentioned your daughter. What other things do you think really helped with respect to the, going from mental illness to really being more mentally healthy?
The moment that sparked that energy into me is that smile and that moment, because I was like, why I am expecting from others or from the government or from anyone else that they will change my life? Why don't I appreciate the moments which I have right now, being in that moment, and start appreciating? The thing which has helped me is staying into the gratitude every single moment of my life. And I'm not worried about anything now. I'm totally not worried. The only focus I have right now is to appreciate what I have. And the second, reach out to as many as people whom I can help. That's it. If I can uplift one person on this planet, I am done, man. I'm done with my job.
Well, you're uplifting me, so you're already done.
Because people don't understand. They often take things for granted, and it's not their fault. It's because we are into a chaos. If you look around, everywhere we are into a chaos, and because of that chaos, they are not connecting with their internal world. And once they connect with their internal world and the internal core, it makes more sense. And then because then they align themselves with their why and with their purpose. And when you align with your why and with your purpose, then you can change your purpose into a paycheck, because we need money end of the day. Yeah. But why don't you make money out of your purpose, out of your passion, and survive? Because once you go into that mode, then you will enjoy every single minute of the job, because you will be happy doing like, for example, frankly speaking, I enjoy this, whatever I'm doing now after 2019. I enjoy this more than what I was doing before 2015.
Absolutely. And this is something that I speak to a lot, because in the situation that I work in, the youth that I work with, it's often in jails, addictions facilities, working with teen mothers, youth in crisis. We have a hospital for mental health. Some youth are suicidal, some homicidal, and just youth that struggle all around with mental health at scale, hundreds of them. And one of the main things that I see that correlates between them, that connects all of them, is they have this creative ability and they often have an entrepreneurial ability. But both of those things still aren't quite clearly laid out in terms of paths or steps to success. And so they fall back into a life of crime, or they fall back into a life of addiction. And that's my biggest struggle. I'm on the same page with you. It's my life's purpose for the rest of whatever I get to live, a day or a million days. I will continue to push the pace towards helping them make it easier to pursue that passion. If you were speaking to one of the students that I work with, let's say, how would you tell them to get started? Let's say if they really loved art and they loved the idea of being an entrepreneur, but they'd never gone into it. What is something that you would recommend they do to kind of get started?
When people start any journey, they always need a hand. Okay, whether you go in any field as an entrepreneur, okay, I also needed a hand when I got out of that wheelchair. And that's how I found that community which I'm a part of now. So the people, those who are starting off, especially the youth, the first thing they should do is they can build their own tribe. For example, if they are into making music, they can start collaborating with the people on the same level, those who are making music. Now what happens when they connect? The energy is same, the mindset is same. Now when these two mix, there is no space for overthinking, there is no space for procrastinating. Most of the people stop, they don't go forward, they don't move, they get unstuck, they get stuck, is because they do not have that surroundings. For example, now because of the social media platforms, and as entrepreneurs, it's our responsibility to pave that path for the people like you are talking about, the youth especially, because they are the future end of the day. If we can give them a correct direction, right direction, they can do wonders for the community, for the world, for the people around them. So my only thing is that collaborate with the people, those who are on the same page like you, whether you are making music, whether you are a painter, whether you are a content writer or a story writer, or whether you are a videographer or a photographer, collab. And when you collab, the ideas will come, because then you have other 5 or 10 people around you throwing ideas towards you.
Absolutely. So let's stick with social media for a second, because I personally joined it on my birthday in 2018. So we're talking, 3 years roughly. Were you always someone in your adult life who was into social media, or was that relatively new for you?
2019. I was not active on social media. I had a Facebook. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have a YouTube channel or anything, just Facebook. And I was not active. But it all started when I went on the journey I'm on right now. And I started my Facebook, where I got my over 8,000 followers right now. I got my Instagram, where I got 8,000 followers. I got YouTube channel, where I got 2,500 subscribers. So it's all started in after getting out of the wheelchair. And I was zero. With the knowledge, I was zero. I didn't have any knowledge about social media. If we talk about paid ads or organic or anything, no. And I was bad at creating content, But when I started collaborating with other people, successful people on the same platforms, I learned, I watch, and that's how you move forward. Because end of the day, you need you, and if you can do that, that's done. Then you can make your own destiny, and that's exactly what I did. And that's why I'm talking about finding out the why. Because when you don't have a strong why, there will always be an excuse.
I believe strongly that it can be fairly easy as a life coach to get someone to figure out their why. The issue oftentimes is that what they're doing on the day to day is not aligned with that why per se, and exactly not being able to be consistently linked. So I love when organic topics come up on this podcast because, it's nice to hear some ideas that maybe weren't necessarily planned. This idea of just picking up social media 2 years ago and already being relatively successful with it. What are some of those learning moments that you can recall that you think might help a kid just starting building their Instagram or their Facebook or YouTube for the first time?
Start connecting with the same people, those who are in your industry. Start talking to them, start following them, start looking at their content, what they are putting out in the world, and then you can make your own content around those topics. Second, reach out to them, DM them, and ask for help. Never ever stop yourself from asking questions. Conversation is the only thing which will keep you moving forward. I was skeptical. I was skeptical reaching out to people, But what happened? I reached out to Tony Robbins' team in Australia. I was skeptical. I was holding myself back. But finally, in 2019, November, I reached out to Tony Robbins' team in Australia. And she's now a very good friend. I talk to her every single week. I told her my story. I was like, I want to meet this guy. He has changed my life, because you need to give a credit where it belongs. Tony Robbins and Jay Shetty were the two people, those who changed my life, So I called. I was like, no, I want to meet. I am happy to pay money, for the event, but I want to meet him. By that time, I was already into the online business, And then I told her my story, and she started crying. And then she's like, I want to interview you on my Facebook page. And she interviewed me, and then I got into the event, but event cancelled because of the pandemic in 2020. So we went on Zoom on the live virtual event. When you work for the greatness, Justin, success will follow you. The universe will make sure that you reach to your dream life one day, because now you are on the right direction. And that's exactly what happened with me. There was a post from Jay Shetty one day that find your purpose. And then I clicked, I joined. It was a free workshop. I joined into that, and then I joined the community, and then I was a part of Jay Shetty's book launch team, the Think Like a Monk. And then when I was in the virtual event with Tony Robbins, one of the lady found out about me through the same lady who interviewed me on the Facebook, and here I am on the Forbes magazine.
I did see that article, and I thought, that's just one of those other, I guess you could say, accolades, accomplishments, things that are worth, putting in the resume and talking about, and all of those things happening. And I'm sure everything that happens to you moving forward in the positive sense is going to be around that idea of manifestation. Clearly, you're a believer in frequency and vibration. So did you learn that from Tony Robbins? And I guess a lot of people won't know what the heck we're talking about. So could you summarize that manifestation that you're speaking about?
Yeah, of course. So when I found out about Tony Robbins on YouTube, I started watching his YouTube videos and all. So the one thing which I still practice, which Tony Robbins talks about, is a morning priming. That's a 15 minutes meditation or exercise, whatever you can call. The whole point to do that 15 minutes priming is to connect with your internal world. And I do that every single day, 15 minutes in the morning, and it connects with your past, your future, and your present. So in that 15 minutes, what you do is you appreciate what you had, what you have, and what you're going to have. And I have noticed when I do that, and my wife started doing that after 2 years, I was into that. And, you see the smile on your face, because as I said, when you change your expectations into appreciations, the life is beautiful. And then about Jay Shetty, he talked about meditation, he talked about affirmation, the power of affirmation. And when I started tapping into the subconscious mind, the first thing I realized that, and everybody talks about that, the first thing I realized, what you feed in, what comes out. It's like eating food. If you eat bad food, you will be unhealthy. So it's just, if you will put bad thoughts in your head, in your mind, you will be putting out bad energy. So everything what happens to us, and everything what happens to us we are connected with, is the energy. And what I mean by that is, birds do not fly, they ride the wind. And fish do not swim, they are carried. So if you put out your right energy into the universe will do the job. The life is not happening to you, it's happening for you.
And what would you say is like the practical strategy to doing this for, let's say somebody who's, an 18-year-old kid really struggling with their thoughts because to this point they've always self-doubted and they've always had the sort of negative affirmations. What would you say is like a practical tip or strategy that somebody could use to start putting those positive thoughts in their mind?
So this is what I did, okay, personally, and that's exactly what I will advise them. When I started doing this, I wrote down my limiting beliefs and my negative thoughts, which I had. And then I wrote down what I want to believe in and what I want. And then what I did is took the paper where I wrote my limiting beliefs and my negative thoughts, and I literally burned that paper and I put that into the bin. I did that for 90 days, every single day, 90 days. And you will find that video on YouTube as well and on my Facebook and Instagram as well. Now you got the things out of your head to the piece of paper, and now you see the real picture, what was in your head. And then when you burn that things into the piece of ashes, what happens? Now you are sending a message to your subconscious mind, hey, I do not want this. This is wrong. And then you do that for every single day. You create a structure and you create a system because we are wired, we are conditioned since childhood. It's not easy. It's not easy for you, me, or any one of us to go and just switch off and switch it on. No, it's not like that. You need to be consistent to rewire the brain, recondition the brain. That's why I did it for 90 days. And it really worked because now what I was doing, I was asking questions to my limiting beliefs and ideas. If I will not ask questions to my limiting beliefs and ideas, what will happen? I will have a miserable life. And I already had one. So the people, those who are starting off, those who are questioning themselves, just write down those things which are going through your head, which are stopping you. Write down. And if you can't burn the piece of paper, just throw it in the bin, and do it for at least 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. And then you will see picture in front of you.
Speaking of the brain changes and all of these things, you went through a very traumatic experience. The people that I'm really trying to reach with this show in order to help them sort of make some gains entrepreneurially with their passions, often, if not always, have a lot of trauma themselves. Did you find that dealing with the trauma was a similar approach that you took, or was there anything different when it came to overcoming the traumatic events you faced?
I did this, and as I said, I was appreciating everything. I started talking to people, those who were already successful or gone out of that situation. So I was trying to find out how they did it. I started reading books. You can see I never read a book in my life. This is all after my injury and the moment I had with my daughter. And it's all about finding the why. That's what I will come down to. Because as I said, when you will have a strong why, there is less excuses in the life because now you have a purpose. And when you have a purpose, then there is a wisdom. People often worry about others and what they will think and what they will say about you. But let me tell you one thing. If I today sitting with you make a decision right now, and that decisions which I made and the outcome is not good, will you going to live your life on those decisions which I made? No, you will not going to live your life on the decisions and the mistake I'm going to make. Why will you do that? So why are you worried about the definition of living the life and the success of others people? I'm not going to live a life and I'm not going to believe the definition of success what Justin thinks, what others think. I'm going to have my own definition for success. For me, success is happiness. For me, success is joyfulness. For me, success is peace. For me, success is purpose and wisdom. For others, success is money. For others, success is big house, big cars. So that's what people need to understand, that what they really trying to achieve in their life. And with kids, it's difficult because they are into not that mindset, or they have gone through the trauma since childhood and their brain is already conditioned. The world is cruel, the world is not good, or this person will going to hurt me. But they need to understand that life 80% spiritual and 20% mechanics.
Absolutely. Something that I like to go back to on this show for sure is early childhood education experiences, if you will. When you were in school, from the time you were a young boy up through, let's call it high school and college. Could you speak to some of your early learning experiences that might have been either challenging or really foundational in terms of building your character today?
So I was always a heavy guy. I was always overweight since childhood. And I used a lot of bullying, and people used to make my fun and all. But I used to get angry, and I used to get into fights because of that. But I don't know. I can't remember. But then what I started doing is that I started making my fun of myself. And then I saw that others are not making fun of me anymore. They are not calling me fat, or they are not calling me chubby, or they are not making fun of me in front of other people. So because now I'm making fun of myself. So now though they don't have any other option to make fun of me, because I also took that from them. And that's exactly, you need to find the way how you can, get out of those moments or those struggles, because people often don't look for things, people just want to see what they want to see.
And with respect to learning, more specifically education, teachers, and did you enjoy school and learning when you were younger? Did you kind of fit the system of school, or what kind of student were you growing up?
I was very naughty. I was very active, and I still remember one of the moment where school fees, the fees went up. So the management of the school put the fees up. They raised the tuition fees and all. I got into with my friends. I was like, no, this is not good, because in India, there are people from poor, middle class, and higher class. And in our school there were people from all backgrounds. There were people from the kids of taxi drivers, from middle class and from rich. And I came from middle class family. So I was like, this is not right, So I got with my friends, and we did a strike. We literally went against the school, and we closed the door, and we were like, no, this is not going to happen. We put all our bags, and we made a mountain in front of the gate. And then I was like, if you guys will not take any actions, we're going to burn all these books and bags right now.
Because that was before you enjoyed reading.
Yeah. So at that moment stood out, and then everybody started knowing me. This is what I was. I was always fun and used to crack jokes and go out. But I also make sure that if there is something wrong, I stood up. Because it should not be always about money.
I appreciate that, and it seems to me that that's a characteristic trait that's really carried you through life to this point. It shows through in the content you create, and this interview, and things you do. So I hope you are aware of that. And if people don't say thank you for being that way often enough, thank you. Along those lines of communicating with others and being friends, you had mentioned something earlier about your former coworker, I guess, colleague, business partner, maybe kind of doing you wrong. I'm sure that loyalty being broken was difficult for you. How were you able to overcome that? And has it impacted your ability to collaborate? You seem to be a very networked, collaborative person still. So could you speak to that loyalty a little bit?
Yeah, of course. See, that moment when I got back from the hospital, and because he was not picking up the phone, and I reached out to other people, and then I reached out to my clients, and this is how I found out through the clients that he's trying to approach the clients, and trying to make a deal outside the business. And the first thing I thought, that maybe he thought that I'm not capable anymore, because I'm not physically fit now. I'm not mobilizing, so I'm not going to worth for the business. So maybe that's why he took the decision, or maybe he really wants to take the business, because we were growing. We went from 2 clients to 6 clients in 2 years' time, But then I had anger. I was angry. I was literally pissing out. I was like, no, this is not right. I trusted him, and now, and in the bad time, he's leaving me like that. This is where I want him more than anything else. But I was angry. But then when I went into that zone of self-love and self-appreciation, and appreciation everything what you have around you, because see, Justin, this is what I think: you or anyone else will not going to live the life what I am going to live. And I'm not going to live the life what you're going to live, because our story has already been written. You believe it or not, it's already there. The reason I was been on the wheelchair is because I was not on the right track. I was not doing what I meant to do. That's why God or energy or the universe put me on that wheelchair, to make sure that you do what you want, you are born for. And now I collaborate, I talk to people. I don't worry about that he's going to steal my money, or he's going to steal my content, or my audience on social media. I don't worry about that. And I have few people in our community, those who think like that. He will steal my audience, because it's all about audience and followers all nowadays. But I don't care about that. That's a second thing for me, because no, that's not me.
No, me neither. And the reason why I stuck to that idea for a little bit was because it's a common theme with a lot of the youth that I work with, particularly in the jail, the idea of loyalty. A lot of times when they're doing artwork, they'll write the word loyalty. If I'm asking them about if they were to have somebody harm them or do them wrong, like what's one of the things that makes them the most angry or brings them the most pain, I would say 50% of them bring up the idea of loyalty or someone breaking their trust. And that's where they rage, to the point where we have youth serving murder charges because of just literally this idea of breaking loyalty. And so it's one of these things where I'm often trying to help them become less judgmental, become a little more maybe anti-fragile around their own emotions, because people may do them wrong in the future and they need to be able to bounce back and take care of themselves without having that wrongdoing to them really tear them down. So I appreciate your insight on that, because it's really helpful. When you talked about this community that you've brought up a few times, and you mentioned it having grown to 75K, is that community, on your website? Is that a Facebook group? When you say the community, what are you referring to?
It's a Facebook group. Whenever somebody joins us, the first thing we do is we hook them up with our community on Facebook. And then from there, we take them into the system where they plugged into the training. And then once they are plugged into the training, they bought the plan where they want to start, and then they can start the training and move forward with the training. They also get one mentor and the coach dedicated to them, which they can speak to whenever they want, 24/7. The training is 24/7.
Yeah, it's amazing. I would love to speak to the business model a little bit, because I think that could really help people. One of the things that's the biggest struggle in this idea of saying you can be an entrepreneur, you can make it, is that we can get people to figure that why out, and maybe even to figure out a little bit of what it is, coaching, courses, content. But the how is so often that sort of secret sauce that a kid who's coming out of homelessness or something doesn't have the ability to go pay, $5,000 for a course right off the bat. And you mentioned earlier the idea of tapping into mentorship, getting some resources and support. Could you talk us through the customer journey a little bit that someone would face if they joined your Facebook group, and how you bring value to them?
So the whole point is we want people to get out of that bubble. They think that job is going to secure their future, but that's totally wrong. Job security is an illusion. That's the whole point. And that's why we want people to have a plan B. When you talk about going online and running your own business, people need to start from finding the product, finding the niche, the target audience, finding the platform. And then when you find the platform, then you need to find the automation. Nowadays, it's all about automation. So you need to find the automation, and then you need to find how you're going to keep that customer or the client with you for a longer period. But with us, the best part is that you do not have to find the product. You do not have to find the audience. You do not have to find the system. You do not have to find the sales tool. The reason why it's everything done. We got the product. We got the market. We got the system. We got a group, the coach and mentors. So the only thing people do when they come to us and start in business, they just need to decide which plan they want to start from, whether they want to invest $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $8,000. And then once they do that, they decide that, they plug into the training, and boom, you go. You are not selling anyone to anything, because the system does it for you. So you are not convincing anyone that, hey, come join my business. Hey, come buy this product. No. That's what other people are making mistake, because sales puts people off. And that's exactly what we have worked on. We want to eliminate that fear of sale. That's why we created the system in a way that the system sell the product by itself, sell the opportunity by itself.
So does it essentially educate and simplify the idea of building a funnel, or does it actually build a funnel for your clients?
The funnel is already there. You just need to plug yourself with it. That's it. And there are people, like for example, if I talk about myself, I am plugged into the system. I am running this business from last 2 years now. This business made me go from 0 to 6 figure. Then I realized, I was like, I'm already experienced now on social media platforms. How about if I can launch my own product and leverage my knowledge, which I have gained in last 2 years, and start another business where I can start another stream of income. And then last year, I launched my perfume brand while sitting home in pandemic. We make this perfume here in Melbourne. We pack it, and I got a website. I got everything in place, and now we are catering all over Australia. We are selling all over Australia, and it's going well. That's what there are a lot of people in our community who has done that. They have learned, they are leveraging the same knowledge and starting another business parallel where they can make money as well. Because this business requires only 5 to 6 hours a week. Because the system is ready. You need to just go out and start doing what we ask you to do, maintaining your social media platforms, running ads to generate leads. That's it.
It sounds like it's essentially affiliate marketing at first, that you're educating people on how to build a business as an affiliate first, get their feet a little wet in terms of the waters of online business. But as you mentioned, those skills are transferable to their own things in the future if they want to use it. And now, are you teaching them to be affiliates for only one product, or do you have a whole bunch of, okay, so it's one specific product that you believe in, that you trust?
One.
Just because I think it could be helpful for someone who has no clue. How would you define affiliate marketing to somebody who doesn't know what the heck we're talking about?
So do not invent, forget, you do not have to worry about the stock. You do not have to worry about the paperwork. You do not worry about the shipping. The only thing you do is you use the link and spread everywhere, wherever you can, through your social media platforms, through WhatsApp, through friend circle, family circles, or you want to run ads and promote that link. That's it. And once somebody goes on that link and buy the product or join the services, you get paid. So you are using someone else's product and someone else's company to make commission out of it.
Makes complete sense. I would love to ask before we wrap, you mentioned Tony Robbins and Jay Shetty. Any other resources, books or speakers, gurus that you would recommend beyond those two?
John Asraf, the Secret guy, who was one of the guy in the Secret movie, Law of Attraction and all. I will also recommend a book from him called The Answer.
The Answer.
Yeah.
Grow any business, achieve financial freedom, and live an extraordinary life.
Yeah. Grow any business, achieve financial freedom, and live an extraordinary life, from John Asraf and Murray Smith. This is the book which talks about your reticular activating system and the subconscious mind, and why people should focus on that more. And then there is another book from Robin Sharma, which is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Since you brought it up, what is the reticular activating system?
Reticular activating system is a bunch of nerves, okay, behind your head, which is connected to your spine. Now, for example, if I give you a coffee beans, you will smell it, but your nose doesn't know how the coffee smells. People think that they are smelling it through the nose and it's nose telling them. It's not the nose. It's the bunch of nerves putting the perception in your subconscious mind. Hey, Justin, this is how this coffee smells, That's why whatever you see, okay, whatever you smell, whatever you hear, it all goes here. And then that nerves put the perception into your mind that, Justin, this is how the water looks. This is how the sky looks. This is how Jacky's voice is sounding in your ears. These are the words which Jacky is speaking right now. That's why you need to tap into the reticular activating system so you can change your perception. I will just read one quote which I like, and it's really good. I found this on internet one day, and it goes like this: I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am.
I love that one. And I think it's your boy Jay Shetty that maybe you heard it from, because I have heard him recite that, but I think he's mentioned who he learned that from, which may have been, when he was living with monks and that sort of mentality. I think that's a great one. The reason I wanted to hear the definition of the RAS and reticular activating system is because certainly that's something that youth or many adults wouldn't know what the heck we're talking about. And in case they don't get the book, it's good to touch on. And I have a couple stories about that quickly myself. I got a job as a mason's assistant making chimneys. Only about 2 weeks I lasted. I don't really like heights, so climbing chimneys with bricks in my hand wasn't too much fun. What I noticed from that experience was everywhere I drove, all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I would notice all the chimneys in the city, right? And so my mind's eye was picking these things up, and I never seen a chimney, really noticed one in my life before. That is the reason why in my content on social media, I originally started with the handle Just Tries, because I wanted to show people it's okay to be vulnerable, to have a growth mindset, and just try things. I saw this quote from Quentin Tarantino today saying that that's the only way he ever got good at making movies, was just by doing it for 8 years, shitty, and then getting better. And you hear this a lot, but where I not went wrong, but what I've learned is when I bounce around too much, like poetry, hip hop, blog writing, vlogging, affiliate marketing, gaming, you can go down the list of things that I could try. I realized if I was only doing them too little, I wasn't activating enough of the benefits of something like the reticular activating system. So I switched my approach, and now I focus on a topic for somewhere around 100 experiments, where I'm just solely focused on doing something like poetry for 6 months and without distractions. And it's my goal to be able to do that with no distractions almost, right? But I need to work towards that side hustle life that you refer to. And that brings up one final thought, I suppose. The side hustle life, being able to just get started while you're already working a 9 to 5, pretty tired. If you had to give your bullet point or your carousel post on Instagram to help someone start a side hustle, what would you say?
Side hustle is not about spending a lot of time in anything, okay? Because that's what people often get wrong, that if they want to start in side hustle, they have to spend like 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours after coming back from work, and that's the reason why they procrastinate and overthink and they don't do it. But nowadays, starting in side hustle is like spending only 35 minutes of your time a day, and you can start running anything online, spending only couple of hours or a couple of minutes every single day. But the only thing you need is the consistency. If you spend half an hour every single day before going to bed building your side hustle for next 30, 60 or 90 days, I will guarantee you will have a business in 3 months.
Yeah, that level of belief is helpful to a lot of people, I'm sure.
It's not about perfection. It's about getting started. Having a vision is not about perfection. It's about getting started. And that's what people need to understand. You won't believe, when I do a coaching call in my business, I speak to so many people every week. And this is the question they always have. How much hours I have to put in? And that's what I say. You won't believe, just the reason I started the perfume business is because I literally didn't have anything to do. As I said, that it's all automated. I was only spending 3-4 hours a week on my business. So I was like, let me start this because I have a passion with the perfumes and fragrances, So I met one guy and I was like, let's do it, man. Let's do it. If it fails, but let's do it, So I went for it and it's working good and it's bringing customers and I'm loving it, because with this, the first intention I had that I do not want to make enough money. The only thing I want to do is I want to get out there and build my own fragrance brand, That was my intention. And here I am, So people only need couple of minutes or an hour, to open their laptop and start doing it. If they are a blogger, if they are a content creator, if they are a videographer or a photographer, just go and click photo and edit and then put it out on the Instagram. I have seen there are people, those who take so amazing photos and they got like 100, 200,000 followers by just putting photos on that, and then you monetize it, then you start collaborating with brands because now you got a big followers and now they will come to you without you asking and you going to them, That's it.
You make it sound so easy. I think you're speaking the dream life to many people. So hopefully they, start following your content and learning from it, because it's what so many of us aspire to be able to speak to with confidence like you do. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure this won't be the last conversation we have. I always like to wrap with just 3 quick theme questions so that I can tie them together between the episodes. And the first theme question is, if you left just one piece of advice for your daughter for the next generation, what would that be?
One advice I will give out to anyone: do not let your temporary emotions overtake your futures. People always make decisions on the basis of their emotions, because emotions equals motion. So if you know how to control your emotions, then you will have a better life moving forward. So try to dominate your emotions more and evaluate them every single moment. If you are listening to this right now and you are going through any emotions, ask questions why you had that emotion while listening to Justin and Jacky on this interview, on this podcast or a video, and why you went through those emotions. Why did it you went through those setbacks before? That's why you are resonating with Jacky or with this conversation. So start asking question and evaluating emotions, because we just go drag ourselves with those emotions and then we end up getting nowhere.
Yeah, and that's a recommendation I make for people trying to learn from any piece of content, whether it's reading, movie, audio, is always be asking yourself, what are you learning? So I love that idea of taking that same approach when it comes to reflecting on ourselves, on our emotions, our psyche. One thing that you yourself are learning right now.
The one thing I am learning is that how to build a online course, because I've been approached by almost hundreds of people that I should build an online course around mindset and mindfulness and gratitude. So that's what I'm working on right now, and that's how I'm learning. I have already got a coach for that who's helping me out. So let's see how far we'll go.
That's great. I think we can provide some mutual benefit, though. I won't say that I'm better than your coach, but I'm at least as good. And my services are free to anyone who comes on my podcast. So I look forward to we can talk offline and talk about your course. I'd love to hear more about it. And then finally, I like to flip this one a little bit. I would love for you to ask me a question. The answer will help my audience understand a bit more of what I do. So what is a question that you would ask me?
The question which I will ask you is that you working with youths, you are trying to pave a path for them, whether it's the mindset or whether it's a career opportunity. So what are the struggles you having right now at present, struggles you had in helping any youth with any mindset?
There's a couple things that come to mind. For one, it's the societal culture that we still have around education being a traditional credit granting system in many ways. This is the curriculum you learn and you check the box. So in terms of feedback, up until 18 years old, typically, maybe even through college, they're often looking for those check marks, right? They want to check the boxes just to graduate. And I'm often trying to tell them we need to shift that mindset into one of learning for the real world. And that connects, secondly, for me to not really being able to use social media as much as I would like to help them, because the modern world is all about this idea of building a brand, personal, company, or a combination of the two. And it still has a bit of a stigma around the idea of educators, for example, communicating with and collaborating with youth on social media. And in fact, at least 3 of the schools that I work at, they're not even allowed to use it at all. In the jail, for example, you could have a student go 6 years not being able to access social media from the years of, let's say, 15 to 20. And so during those 6 years, they could build a brand. And I was actually speaking with one of the artists in my class today. He's just an incredible kid who's really learned how to do art. And I was talking with him about, imagine we could build a brand for the next 5 years while you're in jail. When you leave, you may have 30,000 followers or whatever. You have this asset that you can take with you forever, that you own for the rest of your life. And you're not starting from zero in this sense of entrepreneurship. Now, I haven't figured out yet ethically and logistically how we can help them, because they're not even allowed to use the internet right now while they're in prison. And so that is certainly one of the in the moment struggles that I am having. And I think when it comes specific to traditional mindset stuff, as opposed to the logistics, I would say it's around the idea that since society shows, Billie Eilish and Justin Bieber and Drake and these really pop culture icons as the successful musicians, they don't know that there's this whole level of success that could sustain their lifestyle, but they don't need to be that superstar, that it is possible in the world of painting or, all the things you listed earlier, right? Music and art, that it is possible to build a life that allows you to live like that without having to make $70 million a year. There's that lower version, and it's still okay to do that versus selling drugs or human trafficking or something like that. So I think those are two of the big things that stand out for me.
Just on that note, so for example, if you have a young kid in the jail right now and he's a rapper or he's a good singer and he wants to put out the content out in the world while in the jail, so they don't allow them to put that out, or you can record, or is there a way we can do that?
Right. This is what I'm working on, right? And trying to figure out what is the way. So they wouldn't be able to own or operate any of their own accounts that communicate with the outside world. But what I'm trying to come up with as a creative way, perhaps opening an account that doesn't necessarily show their face, is completely confidential, but you can still build a brand. I know, like on TikTok, for example, people will put at the top of their bio face reveal at 1 million followers. So you can build a brand on your artwork or your music alone. And then when you get out, maybe decide to reveal your face and become more personal with it. So I'm trying to work on that. The issue is they can't hold the device, or they can't use the device themselves to do it because they don't access the internet while they're in the jail. One of my thoughts was, well, maybe I or other educators could control an account for them, but that's just not super scalable because we just don't have the time to run social media for all of our youth. But the other thought is giving them a USB stick or an external hard drive, SD card, and just telling them to just continue put your content on there, and then maybe every so often we can find a way to release some of it where it's still confidential, because it's just a bit tricky when it comes to legalities. You don't know what slang they could be using to send messages and things like this, and so they're very tight-lipped, very traditional in their approach to keeping the communication within that custody site separate from the outside world. And so that's a big challenge, because at this point you're already at the point, I feel strongly, that if you're entrepreneurial minded or creative minded, that it's almost becoming a human rights issue to not be able to work on these things, or close to.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Because I remember in India, there was a guy, he started a radio station just for the people in jail. And then he used to bring people on his radio, and then they used to talk about, their creativity or story or anything, why they did it, and how they feel now. So it was very successful. Yeah.
Well, and this is one of the things, like the reason for this show that we're doing right now is to bring experts like yourself who have knowledge that I don't have to the classroom on the inside, because they can't use, they couldn't go watch your YouTube video, right? They can't use internet, but to give them MP3, they can go and listen in their rooms. They could use MP3 all day long. That's why they love music and they love books. So to give them some advantages of learning while they are in there. However, I've also been thinking that if I were allowed, it would be incredible to have them doing an episode every so often. I think that would be amazing. Again, it's this whole research project on my part that would probably take 6 months or 2 years to get, kind of approval in terms of what are you allowed to do, because nobody's tried to do it. Like with anything innovative, you're breaking down barriers, and you're going to get arrows in your back if you're trying to do anything super creative. And so that's where I find myself with a couple of these challenges, but we'll keep pushing and figuring it out. And what I would love to do is to be able to separate myself from the system altogether and be the full-time podcaster, the full-time creative, and then go volunteer my time to help them, because then I don't have the same constraints.
And I think you will find a way. You will find a way. And because if you are already on the track, it's just a matter of clicking the right idea in your head and in theirs head. I think that there are a lot of options which we can do, like you can do, and bring those people out in the world while they are sitting there in the cage. So no, good luck with that, man. I really appreciate.
Thank you so much. And one thing I'll say, as well is that you've spoken a lot about manifestation and priming and, the idea of reticular activating system and Tony Robbins and Jay Shetty and The Secret. It wasn't until 2021 that I really decided that the podcast is going to be my main focus. Since deciding that, I have gotten inbound messages from just so many great people who will make unbelievable guests. I've almost been too busy. It could be full time right now in terms of work. It's just not there in terms of the monetization piece, right? So with patience and continuing to stick with it, we'll get there. But telling the universe that this is my focus.
On that note, you see these. I bought this last year and I wanted to start a podcast. But
the microphone, you bought the microphone?
Yeah, I bought the microphone, which I'm just using to interview people in my community right now, or they interview me. That's it. But let's see if I might go on the podcast one day. Start my own.
Yeah, that's great. We could talk forever about this stuff. I look forward to having another conversation. But when you mentioned online course and podcast, I know someone who created a symbiotic relationship between her podcast and her course and coaching. It was just so incredible to see. Her name's Rachel Cook. She's had a number of brand names over the years, but she talks a lot about basically becoming your own CEO. So what she did was found a way to combine that content. So it's kind of the double whammy. It's efficiency for time and makes it easy to do both and act as this opportunity to teach for free through your podcast. Yeah, I've got some great insights in the podcast world too. I chose to do it the hard way with guests, long form on deep topics, but for me, that's what's the most important and it'll pay off in the long run.
Well, no, that's good. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Justin. Thanks for having me. I really like, and let's connect again. Let's do it again once they're off this and talk about the things we can leverage.
We will. I look forward to it. Thanks.
Of course. Thanks, Mike. Cheers.
We always have great chats on the JKL show, and this one did not disappoint. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our guest, Jacky. Such a great person to connect with if you're going through a tough time yourself, or wanting to start a business, or simply want good people around you. It's our goal to have this in every school in the world, so please do subscribe, leave reviews, and it would mean the world if you could share it with others. Until the next episode, all the best, and remember, just keep learning.